A beautiful woman, she posts a picture of herself in a bikini. That's got to feel wonderful. I mean, just thousands of these simps going, oh my God, oh, you're so beautiful. Oh. And they can see it scalable too, right? Oh, I used to get 1,000 likes. Now I get 500. You know, they're still getting validation,
losing
but
the dopamine
losing
hit.
and then they see other women getting it, and that enrages them. And that's where you start to see a lot of them move into, I'm a Christian now too.
That's exactly, that's where I was going to next. Yeah.
I remember talking to Rollo about this a couple of years ago, and I was like, look, I want to understand the view first, right? And I found out there was a lot to take away, right? This was a descriptive packet, a data packet, the red pill, not a prescription packet. And so if you go through it, you can use it any way you want. You can use it for evil, you can use it for good, you can use it for whatever, because it's trying to get to the psychology and the kind of normative ethics that goes around dating, rather than saying, here's how you fix it, just here's what it is. And so I think I was one of the first who tried to actually understand that. And so when I engage with red pill creators or manosphere creators from my view, I feel like I understand theirs pretty well.
The Dave Smith interview, I was watching that, and the both of you seem to agree on this idea that, you know, because you were married, you didn't quite understand how difficult dating had become recently. Like it was one of these things. And so this is something that Rollo and I talk about this frequently. It's that when I listen to Matt Walsh, it's not that I disagree with everything he's saying, or when I listen to some of these other guys, like I love them as content creators, but like dating nowadays, I just don't think they understand what social media and dating apps has done to create a level of what you coined as female narcissism. I don't think they fully grasp that when you got married before Facebook. It's funny, Tom from MySpace came to my birthday the other day, Tom Anderson. It's just the idea of what happened before then, how dating was. I'm 48 years old, so I remember I was 23 years old when I got a cell phone. Yeah. I remember what it was like before, going up to girls in Austin, Texas, seeing beautiful women there all the time, and then them not.
And it was fine.
Their phone, yeah.
And it was fine. And the thing is that no, the female narcissism had not set in yet, because, I mean, to a degree, it was always there. You know, the beautiful women knew they were beautiful, that's for sure. Okay, but you couldn't get the validation like you can now, where you just push a button. I mean, a beautiful woman, she posts a picture of herself in a bikini, right? That's gotta feel wonderful, right? I mean, just thousands of these simps going, oh my God, oh, you're so beautiful. Oh, you know, it's like, imagine having that at your disposal, just like anytime you want to feel better, you can just like push a button and thousands of people will run in and be like, do you feel okay now, baby? Do you feel okay now? Oh, gorgeous. Can I buy you dinner? Can I, you know what I mean? Like that's, but the problem is it's double-edged. So like I tried to, when I talk to people, I try to explain it this way. It's how I explained to Dave Smith. Imagine having a superpower that like, you can have whatever you want whenever you want it, right? But you only have it for a short amount of time, and then it's gone forever. And you're always trying to recapture it, right? And it doesn't go away immediately, but you just notice as Superman, the bus gets a little heavier every day, right? The flight, you can't quite get as high as you used to every single day. And then eventually you just become like everyone else. And that's the story of American women. That's the story of all women. And eventually the superpower goes away. And now you're right, because you spend all that time trying to move towards that validation, and you use that superpower for gifts and for this and for that, and now it's all gone.
Yeah.
And the red pill, I think, was the very first descriptive packet, which was really trying to help women more than anything by pointing that out. Right? It wasn't just like when I go back, because Rollo explained the history, so I started looking into it. This was years ago. He explained it. I had you on for an interview, remember? And he was like, you got to dig into this. The original people talking about it were really discussing not just, you know, the benefits for men and men and men and men and men, but they were discussing how women don't really realize how screwed they're going to be if they take their 20s and basically squander it with what they have with their superpower, right? So you imagine you have two superpowers. They have two. One, they have virginity, which if you don't give that away, it's worth, I don't know how much now, but it's worth a lot. And they just give it away. It's like gold bar. They just go drop it in a pond. You're like, you're crazy. And then the second is the validation. And as they get older, that goes away. And they can see it scalable too, right? Oh, I used to get 1,000 likes. Now I get 500. Now I get 200. Now they get one, and that actually makes them feel worse. They're
Yeah,
still getting validation,
losing
but
the dopamine hit,
losing,
yeah.
yeah, they're like, and then they see other women getting it, and that enrages them. And that's where guys like me come in to be like, ha ha, right? Like when they become enraged by this factor, but it's like you did it to yourself. And usually what they try to do then is pull the ladder up behind them, right? They're like, man, and that's where you start to see a lot of them move into, I'm a Christian now too.
That's exactly
I'm
that's
a
where I was going
Christian
to
now
next, yeah.
too.
So you've seen this, so the lack of validation. He talks about the wall. Rollo talks about the wall. The lack of validation, kind of, because me as a Christian, also I see this thing happen where a lot of women are like, they're turning to Christianity for absolution for what they did previously, and because they think this is the best way for them to get a good man. You've seen this as well, and what do you think about this? So it's like the social media then perverts the way they see the world. You mentioned, I thought this was a great description, because we talk about the top tier men hooking up with all these women. What he described was the average woman can now compete for
Right.
top tier men because of social media.
Not just that, but
Yeah.
they believe they can.
Yeah.
There's also an essence I think, that I've learned dealing with you call them something, you call them something, right? I have two distinctions for them. One's a femcon,
Yeah.
right? The feminist conservatives, which most of them are. And then the second is the sewing circle Christians, how I refer to them. And the sewing circle Christian is exactly the type of woman that we're talking about right now. And some of them are men too, by the way. Don't get me wrong. Some of them are men. But with that validation, what comes with that for these women is control. They have complete control. They have control over all the simps. They have control over their life. They have control over their money. And with the lack of validations, that starts to move down. Guess what happens? Their control moves down. Well, where can a lot of these women find a new sense of control? In the church,
Yeah.
right? They come into the church and they start henpecking their way through all of the poor bastards who are there, who are trying to be nice and kind and follow the prudence in the Bible. We're talking about the fruits of the Spirit. They're trying to do everything they can, bend over backwards to assist you in your plights in life. That's what clergy is there for. And they just use it as a weapon to bludgeon everyone to death. It's just, I think that at its root, it's more about control than anything else.
So this is something I haven't heard anybody ask you about this, but it's the concept of, I have the guy who's chaste stays in the church. It's a lot easier for a man if he doesn't try to stay a virgin, right? Because there's not as many people trying to have sex with him. Let's just say he's 24, 25, he remains a virgin, he stays in the church, and now you have a woman who's either a former sex worker, maybe she's on OnlyFans, or maybe she's just a girl who's been rewarded by her friend group.
He's now a predator.
Yeah, she's now, that's exactly my point. She's now rewarded by her friend group for her promiscuous lifestyle, and then she comes back into the church, and now she's so much more technologically sophisticated than this guy who's in the same position, but he's in the same position because he chose to not get that experience. You see how there's almost, it's almost like the colonists taking over the Native Americans.
I mean, you get it, like you understand exactly what's going on, and the thing here let me tell you about a secret war that you may not know about, though. There is a secret war going on in what we would call the base churches. So these are the traditional churches. It'd be Orthodox, it would be Roman Catholic, and high church Protestants. So these are people who are very rigorous, right, in their faith. Like, they're not going to, if it's a feast day, they're going to adhere to it. If it's not a feast day, they're going to adhere to it. They're going to engage in the sacraments, right? They're going to sit in family prayer. Them and their wife are really going to focus on these things. And what has happened is those churches are not immune to this, right? But because so many young men, right, who've been disillusioned are moving towards the church, right? There's now a war with the older patriarchs of these various churches and the kind of people who are coming in, the younger men, who are saying, listen, you don't really understand socially what's happening in the world. And because of that, you don't really know how predatory a lot of these women are who are coming in. But some of them do get it, right? Some of the older patriarchs do get it, and the priests get it now, and they're starting to, wait a second. Are you coming in here because you're repentant and you're looking for forgiveness from Jesus Christ and you're engaging in the sacraments, not for status, but out of humility, right? Or is it that you're here because you can throw your weight around and be hyper predatory and think that you're owed something? And you'll hear, and it's very insidious and devious how they'll do it. The Lord has forgiven and purified me. Who are you to tell me that I can't have one of these great men?
Yeah.
Right? I have been cleansed by the Holy Spirit, all right? And because of that, I am born again into a life, a good Christian life, and with humility I'll look, and that's not what's going on at all.
Yeah.
What's going on is they're perverting the text, they're perverting Christianity, and the patriarchs of old would have run their out with a rod. They would have walked in and they would have said, "Sit down, shut your mouth, don't say a word, ever. Never say a word. Always be in here with humility. And if God rewards you with a husband, you better thank him. You better get on your." But but that's not the way that it's going now. The idea of the fruits of the Spirit has been so socially to just mean anything in modernity which is considered socially nice. That is now what is considered Christianity. That is not Christianity.
Yeah.
And it's never been Christianity. And I push back against those people even more than I push back against the what I call the social degenerates, the pickup artist, the red pillars to use the descriptive packet for for the Sith instead of the Jedi, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is like you've touched on the Great American War that's hidden, that nobody knows anything about, right? And they're not going to yet. It's going to take another couple of years. Rollo's been talking about it. I've watched go after him on Twitter, and I'm always sitting there. Well, I always get the ding, and it's a Rollo post, and I'm like, nah, what's going on, right? What's
not be aggravating these days.
yeah? Well, I just
Like it's so prevalent right now.
it's so well, and it's going to get worse.
Well, like remember when Nala Phipps and her thing, Nala Raven or
Yeah.
Nala now? It's like it was just like this textbook example of just what you're saying is it's what I call the prodigal daughter, scenario. And the prodigal daughter goes out and does OnlyFans and has a phase from 18 to 28 or by around 29. That's when suddenly she wants to get right with God and you're better. I no more fun for me, or I'm gonna get serious right now. So I've had my fun, and so there's this sort of like paradigm shift for that woman right around 29, 30, 31 years old, which of course 30 is the average age of first marriage right now. So when I point this out I know you've done this too, but when I point this out on Twitter, that's when you get the Allie Beth Stuckeys. That's when you get like the Lauren Chans. That's when you get a lot of these, the Isabel Moody's, the people who are, the women who are, like, I guess you would call them the sort of the sewing circle Christian.
Yeah, the sewing circle. Yeah.
Yeah. And they'll come at you and say, well, don't you think that if a woman can be sincere about her conversion? Like, yeah, it's like, I don't question the sincerity. I question the timing.
Yeah.
What I question, because it's almost seen as like part of the plan.
Well, this is a good segue. I would point this out to you, because I mean, obviously, it's suspect, right? Like you're not saying it's not the case, but you're saying that people have every reason to be suspect of the case, and if other people were engaging in this, obviously they would be. But right,
then that's the beauty of the whole engineering. Because when I was writing the fourth book on religion, one of the things that I noted in that book is that Christianity is the only real faith that relies on forgiveness, right? Everything else is works. So if you definitely, Islam is based on works. You got to do these things to prove your faith. And so if you go through any of the Abrahamic religions, you go through the Eastern religion,
but
be yourself accept. You get into Christianity.
The original church is the ecclesiastical church is its faith and works. It's both. It was never the idea. This is a very modern Protestant.
To draw to Christianity.
Yes.
Because of that basis of forgiveness. And that's what we are relying on. It's like, well, God's forgiven me. Why can't you?
Yeah.
And then if you have any doubt about their sincerity, it's not a doubt about them. It's a doubt about your faith, because you're the one saying, oh, well, can this person really be saved? Oh, so you're a doubter then.
Well, the thing is I think it's easier for them to attack you because you're not a Christian, right?
Well, I am, but like,
right.
Not in the sense that I have like a denomination.
Right.
I don't know where I belong.
Right. So they just be like, well, he's an atheist, or he's a this, or he's not a real believer, and they can be very dismissive. It's a little harder with me, right? To be dismissive. When I levy these criticisms and I'm willing to go on your show, I'm a baptized Orthodox Christian, good standing of the church, and I'm happy to levy these criticisms and get into the faith portion of it and get into the scriptural portion. I'm happy to do that, and that's poison to these people. That's like the antidote to the venom, is saying, well, actually, your interpretation of this is wrong. This is crazy. You're not owed anything except you owe God humility. That's it. He doesn't owe you anything. And this is not a pathway for anything except what is supposed to be humility in the face of forgiveness. And why you're supposed to be so humble is after all the horrible things I do, I'm still allowed to have grace and forgiveness. That's the amazing part of the story of Christianity. Not that you're supposed to get something for it. That's not the story of Christianity. Yeah. Ministry. She started ministry. And then she told me, yeah, and she told me live when I was on whatever, I was like, you're LARPing as a ministry. You don't know anything about the Bible. You didn't know that there was a Trinity. You don't know anything about your own faith and you have a ministry. She said, I don't have a ministry. Next day, Guiding Light Ministry, Minister Gamal Ray. Yeah, and it's like, come on. You don't know anything about this stuff. You know nothing. These people have devoted their entire lives to this. But the crazy part was how many of those guys, those simps, how many of these Christians supposedly came out in defense, didn't even bother to look at the context, didn't even bother to look into it for 5 seconds. Michael Knowles was one of them. I couldn't believe it. And I put out a Twitter post refuting everything he said and explaining like, yeah, while it's true we need to forgive people and we're trying to bring them into the church, we also have to protect the people in the church from the bad elements of the perverse, right? And he just leaves that whole part out. He didn't bring up the ministry. He didn't bring up anything. He's just like, well, that's swell. Good luck to you. Pat on the head. Good luck to you.
On the George Janko, he did a response to George Janko's interview of Nala Ray. And he had popped up with some, I don't even know, because I don't quote scripture, but it was some scripture about like wisdom, something like that. And you're like, well, wisdom would be doing your background check on this chick, find out where she is and what she's all about before you bring her on and legitimize her with your show.
Well, not only that, Janko, he let her all over the whatever podcast, and she lied her ass off, right? She was the one who wanted to go on, all right? They both lied. Her husband made death threats on the podcast. Like it was the biggest con ever. So Janko, to give her the softball interview too, none of them were going to ask her any actual serious questions. I was the only one who did, and so I was, of course, crucified for it. Janko says, I would love to have Andrew and Rachel on the podcast. We're like, great, when? Right? Oh, we'll get it set up. So we reached out to the producer multiple times. Dead silence. And it's like, yeah, you didn't want us on there. You wanted to say you did. All right. But give me a break. Like I would love to go on there and just eviscerate that guy for allowing, with no pushback, this woman to all over us as though we did something wrong. She did something right. It was the opposite was the case.
Get your take on this too, because it's like when you look at a guy like Doroshenko, or do you look at these guys like even Chris Wernerson, or I mean, we're looking at it from more of like a faith-based side of things. So we're looking at influencers that are part of sort of a religious, niche for the better term. But I think that a lot of their content or what they think will be like Doroshenko would be a good idea is really not so much about the actual conversation or actually having a debate or actually even just sorting things out, but just have some sort of substantive conversation. Is more about brand building than it is about whatever they're stating.
Well, let me ask you this. Why is it that in modernity, Christians, especially ones who are popularized online, like I have no ministry, and I'm not ever going to have one. I don't want one. I'm an entertainer and I'm an Orthodox Christian. That's true.
But you do disciple to other people.
I don't do ministry work.
Well, I mean, not literal ministry work, but people may come to the kingdom of God through watching your
content. It is the case. I get letters and DMs from all around the world from clergy thanking me, and I always tell them the same thing. I'm an entertainer, okay, who just happens to be an Orthodox Christian. I'm glad that it is the case that's become a funnel towards orthodoxy. But I'm not the best representation, okay, of what you'll really find in a great Orthodox church. I'm an entertainer. That's what I do. But I do engage in very good faith debates and brutal debates with people and have for years. And that's going to continue where, of course, I'm representing my worldview, and that's the basis for the worldview. So I think people see that, and that's what funnels them over. You know what I mean? Is the idea that I'm representing that worldview very well when it comes to the debates themselves. So that's the portion. But kind of back to this to ask you the question: in modernity, why do you think it is that so many of these online ministries get this so wrong. Why are they so gullible and stupid?
Mm.
Why can't they use reason, common sense, logic, anything like that? Why do you think it is? Because I think you touched on something important. Is it about the brand or is it about the message? Because if it's about the message, I fully expect clergy to not be gullible idiots. Like I expect them not to be. I expect that after having talked to thousands of people, your gullibility starts to decrease. And yet somehow with these people, it doesn't. It makes me think that maybe there's ulterior motivations.
Could it be that the software update, societal software update of social media was so pervasive and happened so quickly that these guys who are in the clergy can't keep up? Could that be part of where this gullibility comes from?
I mean, we've had that software update for 15 years.
Yeah.
It's like, I think you need to get to the party at some point.
I'm saying I still talk to guys, again, if you're in the clergy, let's say you're you're a Protestant and you're married, or you're Catholic and you're not married or whatever, but you not really participated in the dating lifestyle over the last 15 years and seen how much, because it truly is, they're addicted to their phone. Like, that's not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
It's like beautiful women, you're going on a date with them and they don't think it's that big of a deal that they've been on their phone the entire time, and I talk to clients constantly and they're dealing with this, and I feel like maybe that is something that's happened so fast. Because whenever I hear, when we talk about Matt Walsh talking about dating and marriage, it's like, it's very clear to me. It's like, you got married before the software update. It's sometimes PBD, the same thing when PBD talks to Adam Sosnick. It's like, no, Patrick, you got married before this whole thing happened. And so I don't think that maybe naturally get it.
A lot of that conflict that comes from the lacking of the software update is seeing, I think one of the reasons why, like, those guys don't want to talk to me. They don't. Matt Walsh damn well knows who my name is, right?
Yeah.
He knows who Jim Sexton is. He's had him sit across the table from him and has had those conversations about divorce. So if I do that and I go out there and I just give them raw data, right? We're saying, yeah, that's what the red pill is about. It's a praxeology. You can use it for good or for evil, right? Same thing that Jim Sexton is doing. He's just giving you divorce statistics. If you ask him for his opinion on, like, well, don't you believe in love? Yeah, he'll tell you. In between him telling you these are the divorce stats and all this other stuff that's going on there, I think what happens is when you have that sort of empirical data that goes on there, you can't tell people facts without telling them how to feel about those facts. If you don't, they will assert or further their own meaning. So
I use that quote all the time, but just so you know, I credit you with it. I say there's one thing about Rollo, he always gets right.
Well, but the thing is like when somebody is so ego invested in those beliefs, and we give them that raw data that may or may not, like, conflict with that, but it's something that sort of makes them think of a question, or the question that they have to ask, that they are uncomfortable answering.
Yeah.
And when that question or that conversation is not only a challenge to their belief set, but it's also a challenge to their revenue stream too, because they've built a brand on an alleged mission statement or an alleged set of beliefs. And that's where Matt Walsh found himself, and which is why I think he kind of bounces.
But this is crazy to me because they do have good data on their side. Like, for marriage in traditional churches, there's good data on our side. I mean, the Orthodox divorce rate's 9%.
Yeah.
9%. The Catholic divorce rates, depending on what you look at, is between 18 and 21%. Right? The traditional churches are definitely a helpful safeguard from divorce. And they also produce better outcomes for people. And I see a lot of these guys, what'll happen is this. When you're looking at data, and you know this probably from looking at it so often, you have to parse it, right? It's not, you can't just take.
It's one thing to look at data, it's another thing to interpret.
Yeah, you have to parse it out, right? And so when people say, half of all marriages end in divorce. No, they don't. No, they don't. You know, well, at least half of first marriages do. No, they don't.
No, 43%.
Okay, no, they don't. Like, you're objectively wrong, and you're saying something stupid, right? And then when you start breaking those things down even more, you start to realize, well, wait a second, the Amish don't get divorced at all. Not at all. They're like, never. And even the ones who go on the Rumspringa and end up going out in the world almost never get divorced. Orthodox, very low divorce rates. Roman Catholics, very low divorce rates. High church Protestants, very low divorce rates, right? Suddenly, marriage takes a whole different meaning on. You're like, wait, now why would that be, though? Is it just because they're so faithful and they do this enough? Is that it? No, it's not it. It has nothing to do with that. Look deeper. We're community animals, right? We have social communities and if you go, think about this. what do you do once a week with your boys? Almost nobody ever even does something once a week with their boys. They don't go fishing once a week with
Yeah.
their boys. They don't do anything. But these people, they're going to a function once a week with a community, sitting down, hashing out issues, problems, and they have authorities that they turn to. If that's the case, now you have social reinforcement. And that's the last bastion of social reinforcement. Now we have social reinforcement, we have ecclesiology, we have all of this help when it comes to this marriage and these problems and things like this. Rollo says something all the time. Best point in the world. He says, and I always laugh when he says this, and my wife will laugh too as she's bringing me my coffee in the morning. He says on Twitter, you know what? Sewing Circle Christians, you want to know the best advice you can give other women, right? Your husband, right? Best advice you could give, right? And so I look at this and I always laugh because while a sermon in a traditional church will not say those words, they won't say go home and your husband. They will sit down and say to deprive one, right? When you're one flesh, to deprive one the other, right, is doing not just a great disservice to them, but to you. And they will say, and keeping yourself attractive to your spouse and things like that, that's important as part of that not depriving. They really do actually focus on intersexual dynamics and the reinforcement behind it. And it really helps a lot of people, right? And what does secularists have? Well, they have a psychologist who's a woman every time, right? She's a woman every time. She's usually in her early 20s. She doesn't know shit about. And these older married couples are coming in saying, we're having serious problems. We've been married 10 years. He's fat, right? And I'm fat, and we're not attracted to each other anymore. We don't know what to do. And they give you some self-help guru over-psychologizing that means nothing, right? And inside the church, the authority and the community's helping you with this, right? They're like, well, hey, Greg, you do a lot of fitness stuff. Do you think you could help Chuck with this? So now Greg's helping Chuck get fit. The women will come around and they'll say, hey, you can cook better food. Here's some great recipes. We'll drop some food off. Suddenly there's that support group. And one of the things that I was always appealing about the Red Pill Manosphere was they were trying to be a support group for men.
Yeah, right.
But it was like, you know what? We already have that as long as you're religious. But secularists, when they ask me, like, what's the answer for secularists? If you're going to have Satan go ahead and officiate your wedding because you're a secularist, why don't you expect to have bad results? Secular marriage has always been stupid. It's never been good. It's never done much for anybody. And so when those guys are like, well, we're just going to go be degenerates, I'm like, I don't care. But it's for the men who don't, and they want to have successful relationships. It's very clear to me, looking at the data when you parse it out, where you're going to be able to have those successful marriages and with very low rates of divorce. And that's not me being a tradcon. That's me doing the same thing you guys are. Here's the data.
Yeah.
Now refute the damn data or shut your mouth about it.